In the news this week, Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson vetoed a bill that would have banned chemical castrations on children. This supposedly conservative governor is actually wanting to allow children to be chemically castrated, which can cause infertility and does irreversible harm. A doctor's oath is to first do no harm, and studies show that children who do suffer from gender dysphoria grow out of it after puberty. Studies do not show that it improves children's health in any way. And just because a patient wants something doesn't make it okay to give it to him. More and more gender dysphoria is happening just as frequently as anorexia nervosa, with its incongruity between body reality and mental perception. A body that is thin is imagined to be fat with anorexia. But there's a fundamental difference with how doctors treat anorexia. No medical professional would approve of diet pills or liposuction. Medical experts will try to convince these patients of the biological facts of the thinness of their body. But with gender dysphoria, doctors are encouraging permanent changes to their body just because they have a perceived notion and a mental perception of themselves as a different sex than their biological sex. In Rod Dreher's book, Live Not by Lies, he says, quote, "Doctors are disclosing that social justice ideology is forcing physicians to ignore their medical training and judgment when it comes to transgender health. It's not permissible within an institution to advise gender dysphoric patients against treatments they desire, even when a physician believes it is not in their particular patient's health to do so." End quote. Doctors are doing harm because of political correctness, and it's wrong. There's also another very serious body-mind illness where people believe one of their natural limbs doesn't belong to them. It's called body integrity image disorder, and its patients ask for the doctors to amputate those limbs. Some of these patients even try to saw off their own arms or legs because they want to be at peace with their inner sense of self. But again, just because a patient wants something doesn't make it okay to give it to them. It would be irresponsible and harmful for a doctor to saw off one of these body parts just because that patient asked for it, right? Governor Asa Hutchinson defended his position on allowing chemical castration to children by saying that he just believes in limited government, and he doesn't want the government to get in between the patient, the parent, and the doctor. But this is the same governor who just closed down public schools during COVID, and that was a huge government overreach. Isn't that kind of the definition of big government? Especially when you have the data that shows that children are very, very likely not to get COVID, and even if they do, they are overwhelmingly likely to recover from it. So if the government stepped in for that, the governor didn't step in for chemical castration? Chemical castration is far more destructive to a child's life. It's unconscionable, especially from a so-called conservative governor and a man of faith. Martin Iles, who's the host of The Truth of It, says that this is happening in Australia with something called the Change or Suppression Practices Prohibition Bill 2020. With this bill, pastors would be imprisoned for counseling and for praying for Christians who want to receive counseling for same-sex attractions that is unwanted. This would happen here in America too with something called the Equality Act. If even a so-called conservative is approving of this ban and approving of these types of bills like the Equality Act, what will the left allow? This week, Tucker announced that Walmart did have a significant interest in Hutchinson vetoing the bill. They issued a statement saying that they were in agreement with his veto. Thankfully, the legislature of Arkansas did override the governor's veto. With Governor Kristi Noem, she too recently capitulated on a bill to ban biological males from competing in women's sports, and she gave in to pressure from the NCAA. We need to speak up now while we still can, and we need to encourage conservative politicians to not cave, get a backbone, and prevent this harmful chemical castration on our children.